I'm really excited to welcome a friend of mine who I met through work, a fantastic musician. He's in a Beatles tribute band called the Threetles. He writes his own stuff. He's in a band called the Mojos, a function band, and another band called One Iota, which is very much all their own original material. So I'm very delighted to welcome Mr. Andy Bowen. Welcome.
Hello there.
Thank you very much for joining me today, Andy. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. Yeah, a bit tired today after a long day.
Of course, yeah, we've been at a training session today, haven't we? So, yeah, but very much appreciated you doing this.
You're very welcome.
So, I suppose really, Andy, the first thing to talk about is I was trying to think the other day, like when we first met, because I can remember meeting you. I'm not sure if you will remember this, but I remember it was a Christmas do at the base at Burnham.
Oh yes.
And I remember you getting up and you've written a song, I think.
I had, yeah, that's right, yeah.
That you performed. I remember thinking, oh, this guy's actually, he's really good. Like, this is actually a pretty good song, this. And me sort of almost having performance envy, being like, why wasn't I aware of this?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. That was a song I'd written. I think I'd wanted to do something that particular year. It was 2019 actually, so it was sort of not long really before the pandemic. But the previous year, previous Christmas, I think it was the 22nd of December, in my previous job at the Autism Hub, there weren't many of the service users that we spotted, and one of the things I used to do was bit of music therapy, as I would like to call it, but it was often just singing and having a bit of fun, and somehow I just came up with the chorus part of that song. It came to me, and I didn't think much more about it. But I kept it at the back of my mind, and I thought I'm gonna do it for next year. I'm gonna write a whole song, and I did, and I released it onto Spotify under my own name, more just for. But I did it entirely at home, but just for self-satisfaction really, and then thought my kid, it's something my kids could listen to just with a bit of fun, just in years to come, perhaps as well. I'm under no illusions it would be like Slade or something like that, but just for a bit of fun. So yeah, that time, that party there, was there was a lot of people actually.
Yeah, it was really busy actually, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I'd actually used some of the staff at my colleagues to create the choir effect, and a few other people as well, friends and my kids and wife, and it seemed apt to do it there, so we did.
Right, yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it was really good, and that's one thing I noticed actually, because there was another song you wrote, remember, called "Dance with Me," also for United Response.
Yeah, that's right.
So is songwriting something you've always done from an early age?
No, I wouldn't say it is actually. Well, maybe initially when I first started playing the guitar, I guess I did, and I think many guitarists, many musicians probably do when they first learn an instrument, but particularly the guitar or maybe the piano, because they lend themselves to songwriting, I suppose. So yeah, initially I did. So probably to answer your question more precisely, yes, I suppose I did. But then I've had quite a gap actually where I haven't done anything. When sort of early 2000s, the band that I was in, we all sort of went our separate ways, and I got into doing the functions band thing, and I think I probably didn't feel I had much to say anymore. Maybe that's a sad way to look at things, and so I wrote very little actually for quite a number of years, and then up until probably just that point, just before the pandemic, I seemed to have got into a bit of a stride with it.
Right. So, yes, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because do you feel like songwriting is something you do more of when you're younger?
Interesting, isn't it? Because I think when you're younger, you're certainly a teen and maybe early 20s, you've probably got quite a lot to say, because obviously the world's, nobody understands you, do they? The governments are all corrupt, and which maybe they are, but we won't get into that. Yeah, and I think you probably have a lot to say, don't you? And I think there's been many songs throughout history of you know, whether it be Bob Dylan all the way to, I don't know, Foo Fighters, Blink-182, you know, they've all done some kind of teenage angst type of song, haven't they, where, that, you know, that kind of thing, with something to say. And then maybe I kind of, I think I lost what I was about, I suppose. I didn't have much to say. And then with the Christmas thing aside, that was perhaps more a bit of a fun thing. But with the One Iota band, the pandemic really allowed me to just take stock of, as it did for many people, but to take stock of life and you know who I am, and I think the songs came from that, and I don't think they would have happened perhaps if I hadn't been able to take stock. But now I've found I found the love for that. The love for songwriting again, actually.
Right,
and I think I've probably got a bit more to say. And maybe that only comes, interestingly, it's come back full circle really because I'm a bit older again now. You know, so maybe that gap in the middle where I didn't even know who I was myself, didn't aid my ability to write a song. And then I think as I've got older and different, you know, new life experiences, I think that's maybe enhanced the desire to do it again.
Right,
I suppose,
okay.
I think.
And that's quite, fascinating really that it was the pandemic that actually helped to kickstart that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder, I'm sure everyone's different with this, but I don't know for you, did you feel that maybe there was a period where you were getting older where maybe, did your confidence go a bit with songwriting? Did you sort of feel a bit like, oh, I'm not really sure?
I think so, yeah, probably so, because perhaps because of the bands that I was doing at the time, which were very much, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, they were very much of the indie flavour and vibe of the bands that were big at the time, you know, like you know, the Britpop type bands, and maybe I think a lot of guitar players in particular, when they're in the teens and they actually think that they are going to be the next big thing, and certainly that. But I mean, you know, I'm sure you'll remember as well. You know, that such a big explosion in the 90s and the early 2000s of guitar-based bands, and of course that was still before digital streaming and you know, bands still had to go out and do gigs and send CDs through the post to, you know, the record companies and that kind of thing. You know, record deals were still a thing that people needed to get to become big and things. And I think there was a point perhaps where it dawned on me, and I think I remember that it dawned on me that actually I wasn't going to be like a big rock star or anything, and maybe that had an effect on me, that then the maturity of growing older somehow makes you appreciate, well, actually I just like playing music,
Right, yeah.
you know, and why was the trying to be a famous rock star more important than actually just enjoying playing and writing, I suppose. And that, like I say, it's come full circle perhaps now.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make perfect sense. And I think, I do find that interesting. I can relate that sense of, say, when you're younger, you're sort of almost like chasing that fame, and then you realise actually I don't really need that.
No,
as long as I'm playing the music I like and I'm enjoying doing it, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
If there anything comes as a byproduct of that, then great. But,
yeah.
But I suppose for me as well, I realised that actually I really didn't want to be touring relentlessly.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to sort of realise, actually, you know what, if I was going to be, you know, successful or big in that regard, I'd have to just stick at it and be touring all over the place.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't really want to do that.
No, not having a base is, you know, a place you can call home is probably quite a scary thought, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it is. So let's go right back to the beginning then. So in your early years growing up, have you always lived in York?
I have, yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And so what was your household a musical household?
Not especially. My parents had sung in York Festival Choir thing, and actually I believe they sang at the Albert Hall once upon a time.
Oh right, okay. Right.
As part of the festival choir. My mum's family are more musical. So my maternal grandmother's family from West Yorkshire. I don't know what that makes him, a great grandfather, whatever. Anyway, he was a conductor of some of a band, brass band type thing. I suspect over there, or orchestra. Maybe I need to find that out. What he did, but he was some kind of master of music. So that's kind of really the only connection. But it's not a direct. I've never, obviously I've never met him or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Long since died. But my dad, I won't say played the guitar. He could twang a couple of notes on it. And the guitar, he'd often borrow a guitar from a friend, and it'd be hung up in the house. But I wouldn't really say there was a lot of instrumentation. No.
Right.
Lots of music played, hi-fi, CDs, LPs, whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, not a instrument heavy house.
Okay. Nice. And was it just you, or do you have siblings as well?
I've got a sister as well, but she's not really musically inclined.
Okay.
I'm sure she won't mind me saying. She likes music, but she's not. Yeah, she's not.
But your family were listening to music. It was ever present, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think you and I have probably had a discussion about probably growing up with this, our dads with similar styles of music in the house, but yeah, or in the car as well, and big hi-fi separates, Technics hi-fi separates.
Was your dad into his gear? Was it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Very much so. Yeah.
Right.
So there'd always be, Fleetwood Mac, the Beatles, Queen, and Dire Straits was.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Very similar to my household then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so in terms of sort of earliest musical memory that got you sort of on the path to playing the guitar, was there any particular sort of band or point that you could remember that sort of set you off on that?
Probably, I would say, and this is actually, from the moment I heard it, I knew I wanted to play the guitar, but it was sometime afterwards that I actually did, and it would be Money for Nothing by Dire Straits.
Okay.
Just hearing that song, I don't know how old I would have been, maybe 5, 6, 7, something like that, and I can just remember hearing it on both in the car and the hi-fi at home, because my dad had, I think Brothers in Arms, the album that Money for Nothing is on, was the first CD, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, it was.
First album release, yeah. And I mean, I can still see it. I mean, it was quite, it had a striking blue frame on the cover with a pink writing, and then the national
guitar.
steel guitar in the centre. But I remember hearing that drum crescendo that I don't think there's anything quite the same. I mean, it's probably really produced in the studio, isn't it? I guess, but it reaches such a crescendo, that drum intro on Money for Nothing, and when the guitar soars in, it's like an eagle soaring
Yeah, it
in the
really
sky.
is. It's like that release of tension. I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. Yeah, and it's very otherworldly sounding. It didn't sound like any other guitar I think that I'd heard at the time, because my dad would maybe play the Shadows or something.
Yeah, of course.
That's very different, and obviously the Beatles stuff. There was nothing really I'd heard, and of course pop music itself was generally not. It wasn't very guitar heavy in the 80s, of course. So that song was probably the catalyst for me to think, I really want to play the guitar.
Right. Okay. Well.
So,
I mean, it's a great one to. To me, it was to say as your prime influence. Yeah, 1985. That was released. Okay. Yeah. So can you roughly remember how old you were when you started playing?
Well, I was 12 or 13, I think. So it was a few years after. It's about 92, 93. So it would be 7 years, 8 years after.
Okay.
After I'd actually heard Money for Nothing and the other sort of music that was played at home. So yeah, about 12 or 13, I think.
Okay, right. And did you buy your first guitar? Was it bought for you?
First guitar was my dad. Yeah, my dad bought me just a classical nylon strung guitar.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Classic.
Classic. Yeah, the classic to learn on. Shortly after, he did buy me then an Encore Strat copy.
Okay. Nice. Excellent.
Christmas.
They were all right actually. Those Encores.
Yeah.
Good budget
fine,
guitars.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms, I suppose, in learning the guitar, were you self-taught? Did you have guitar lessons?
Well, initially, I was at school. The music teacher who'd only just started that particular year, she played the guitar. She now runs Sue Williamson. She runs the Tang Hall Smart that's based at Burnholme.
Okay.
So she was offering guitar lessons in her first, for the first term that she was there. So I thought I've got to get in there and sign up. So I did. There was a group of people that did school, from various year groups. Most of them fell by the wayside quite quickly, but I obviously stuck at it, and so yeah, I always, whenever I see Sue, I always make a point of saying you changed my life really.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was quite a nice thing for her as well. Actually. So no, she set you off on that. That path.
Probably so.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about, I suppose, bands really. When you were 12, 13, was it always them like, I want to be in a band and just get a band together, or did that happen quite a bit later?
No, I think I wanted to start a band quite quickly with some friends from school, and one of my best friends at school was also having drum lessons, so that was a no-brainer.
Okay,
Got another
nice.
friend who was interested in playing the bass, so there we were. We had a three-piece band already, and of course, well, anyone can sing, can't they? So we just so that was that. The band evolved over time at school, and I think the first year we entered the Battle of the Bands, and we were appalling. I mean, it was truly atrocious. The following year we won it, and we just we'd stuck at it and really tried hard, and we were. It was. I mean, it probably does say. I would imagine it would be quite cringy if you listen to it now. I'm sure, but at the time it had gone really well, and we had a keyboard player join us. My friend Dave Soulsby, who's the keyboard player in the Mojos with me now. So all this time later, yeah. So
amazing.
We've remained friends.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Was that at Fibbers by any chance, Battle of the Bands?
No, it was just the school.
Oh, the school
Battle of the Bands.
Right.
Yeah. We did do Battle of the Bands with other bands later at Fibbers and the like. So.
I'd be interested to know how many of your musicians have played at the Battle of the Bands at Fibbers.
Yeah.
I imagine it's quite a lot.
I would imagine.
It's almost like a rite of passage, I think.
Have you done it?
Do you know what? I have not.
Have you not?
I think I'm one of the few that haven't.
Right.
I was almost a bit too sort of late to that party.
Right.
Okay, and then I think they failed. I did go to a couple.
Yeah.
But I've never actually performed myself. Not in the Battle of the Bands anyway. I did perform at Fibbers a couple of times.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, when you look back at those bands, it's one of those things where you're like, we were dreadful, but actually it was what we needed to be at that time. Or
I think so. Well, certainly the school band, yeah.
Right.
I think, because actually, if we hadn't been so appalling in the first year that we did it, it wouldn't have spurred us on to then actually get our act together, and then took it by the scruff of the neck, and we won by quite a country mile, I think, the next year. But I think quite often in life in general, it's often the adversity that then, or the knockbacks, whatever you want to call it, whatever situation it is, then spurs you on to achieve a higher level, isn't it? I think that's probably across the board in life, I guess, to a certain extent, isn't it? But yeah, it was. It spurred us on.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
And I suppose with the band that you're in now, One Iota, let's talk a little bit about that, because obviously that's purely originals.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So
it is. Yeah.
What I find interesting about being in originals, because I've been in originals bands before, I must admit I've always found it hard work, because there's always that anxiety, especially when you're just a local band, of like, no one's going to come and watch this. Is that something that you also sort of feel like you have to deal with, or you manage to just not worry about that?
I think at the moment because we've only done the one gig. We've written and recorded the album, but then only done the one.
Oh, see, the Joseph Roundtree gig, right? Yeah.
Which was, I mean, beyond our wildest dreams, really, within the attendance stakes of it. So probably our biggest test will be how we follow that up, and we have got a gig, but it's classed as a double headliner, but I think it'll be more as a support slot to a band called Genius the Fool. We're playing at the Crescent Club in.
Oh yeah.
In November
nice
it is. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So it's a chance for, again, that's actually a bit of a spur on, because having recorded the album, and that was quite a journey over the lockdown period to get to where we were, because there was a few setbacks there with restrictions and things, and then putting the gig on at Joseph Roundtree, we then didn't know what to do with ourselves, and it's like as people say, the difficult second album syndrome, and it's hard to know what to do. So we've got one or two other songs now to add to the set list and for a potential second album. So it's we'll get it together again. But certainly, in answer to your question, original bands, it can be very difficult, and I think that's again maybe why I got a bit disheartened with doing it in the first place when it hadn't worked out that first time round, was because you do feel like you've created something that you want. You've got something to say. But whether that be lyrically or musically, you've got a killer riff, whatever it is, and really, people couldn't care less. That's sort of the feeling that you get, and it is very disheartening, I think, I would say, and so having been there and done that, it's frightening as it is to say, probably 20 years ago. It's nice to do it again now, being that bit older, and actually, and probably not having that worry, because I don't need to prove to anybody particularly, whether I don't care almost if they don't like me as such, because if they've come to watch, then it's then I guess they must be.
Yes, true.
Have some kind of interest. But I think you take it personally when you are younger that people don't like you, and they don't appreciate what you've done somehow. Whereas, I think being older, it's maybe water off a duck's back.
Yeah, it's true, and I think it's quite an empowering thing to have that actually. Where you just actually, do you know what? It's fine. I'm just doing this for enjoyment now. As opposed to that sense of I need to make it. Which some people have and go on to be very successful, which is great. But I think I do find it quite a nice feeling to like actually, I'm not bothered anymore. But I think it could take quite a while to get to that point.
It can,
I suppose with your functions bands, was there a point where you thought, like, actually, this is how I want to make money? Because I think does there come a point where you're like, actually, I'm a bit tired of just doing this for exposure, for free. I want to start making some money now.
Yeah, I think that's another a valid point as well. And there are musicians. Several in York, actually. I mean, York has got quite a lot of functions bands that do this full time almost. There's huge for one of them, Bogus Brothers, another. They tour certainly Europe anyway. And so there is a chance to make a living from, or certainly a reasonable amount of money doing, let's say, that again sounds like you Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, but to make a living, to get by, there's a chance to make a living, to get by playing music, and I think that's quite appealing, because why, you know, if you can pay some bills by playing your guitar, then why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And many people do have obviously second income, don't they? You know, whether that's being I don't know, actually often around weddings and functions, isn't it? You know, maybe a photographer or a florist or something like that. I suppose some people maybe just do little bits and pieces to earn an extra thing. Or there was quite a rise in the homemade cake business, wasn't there? I think a few years ago. You know,
yeah.
That kind of thing. So yeah, it all happened very organically, if that's not too much of a sort of funny term, but the band just kind of started, and we all of a sudden people wanted to book us for weddings and things, and it just sort of snowballed from that really to where we are now. So and I enjoy doing it. You know, it's good fun, and playing at a wedding with, you know, 80 people or more dancing around, it's a great feeling, you know, and it's a one-off event generally.
Right, yeah, true. Yeah.
For most people.
Not always, but yes, you're right, generally speaking.
So yeah, it's a nice thing to do. I do enjoy it. You know, some people think it's a bit of a sellout playing, but you know, then who is who to judge anybody, I suppose.
And I think as well, that's one thing that the older you get, the more you're just like, you know what, actually, if I can make some money, even a living out of this, then I'm doing all right. When you think of other people with jobs that they absolutely detest, if I can make a living out of something that I'm enjoying doing, then, you know, you can call me a sellout all you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing as well is, if you are doing it as a, you know, myself and obviously you do as well, you work, you know, during the week, and you know, to do a gig on a Friday or a Saturday is a chance just to blow the week away, just forget you relax. It's, you know, it's as good as having 10 pints. You know, some people like to go to the pub, get drunk at the end of the week. Well, you know, for me, my way of sort of having a blowout, so to speak, is just playing a gig. You get lost in the music for a couple of hours and have a good time, and it's you know, it's a chance to escape reality, I guess, as well, you know, from that point of view.
Yeah, well, let's talk about, I suppose, just gigging in general, because I always find the actual process of gigging itself like quite fascinating. Sometimes it can be amazing, and there are other times when it can be just really hard work. I'm just wondering about your experiences, particularly playing in the covers bands and in pubs on Fridays and Saturday nights. Like, what have you got any sort of, I suppose, interesting experiences of things that have happened to you that are particularly memorable to you?
I probably could if I rack my brains. I mean, often if we're playing on a Friday night or a Saturday night in the York town centre, it can be, well, York has the races, so there's often race meetings. So there's people falling all over, you know, dressed smartly. Stag do's, hen do's, they all come to York, and I do remember one it was at O'Neill's, and there was a stag party, and one guy had this inflatable sheep, and he just put it right in front of John, the other singer's face, while he was trying to sing the opening number, just there, right in front of his face, and it's not funny really, you know, and we weren't laughing at the time. And yeah, you know, there's some stories where you get people invading the stage and knocking things over, and actually, again, that's not very funny really at the time. But yeah, there's all sorts of. So those sort of situations can be quite stressful because of the risk of getting damaged or hurt or something.
Yeah, of course.
Something along those
lines.
And
I suppose it must be difficult as well, because you're trying to still create and maintain a jovial, friendly atmosphere, but also without sort of taking any nonsense from people, which can imagine potentially get very, very awkward and difficult.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's loads. And now, do you find, weddings easier than, or like events easier than pub gigs, or is it varied?
It can vary because what you'll find sometimes at a wedding, for example, is if it can depend where it is, and if it's in a hotel with lots of rooms, you know, various different rooms, and perhaps you're just in a small room, often people will disappear at the early part of the night to go and get a drink. They've been sat down for all afternoon, and they want to go and have a chat and a drink and maybe a smoke or whatever. And that first set can often be quite difficult because it can be nobody in the room. By the end, everybody will come in. Maybe it's got darker outside if they've been outside and come in. But that's just when you've got in. It's when circumstances come together. I think depending on how long the wedding's been going on for the layout of the venue. Fortunately, it's not all the time. Most weddings are really good events, and usually because I suppose it's a bit. Everybody's on the same team, really. Everybody's there to celebrate the wedding and have a good time, and generally that is the way it goes, I guess.
Yeah, true. But yeah, you're right. What you say just reminds me. People, they don't see anybody at all for the first set usually, and then sort of about when you're on your final song and you're ready to pack up, suddenly everyone wants more, and the party starts. You're like, well, where were you about an hour and a half ago?
That thing that it does happen from time to time, certainly. Which, well, there's not a lot you can do about it really at that point.
Yeah.
But actually, it's quite upsetting. More because you feel like you haven't. Because I mean, you've not played badly because you as a musician, as a band, you played the same week in, week out. It's not been a bad gig, but it's just there's been other things going on, for people to do or friends they've not seen for years, and that's just how life is. But at the end of it, you sort of have a feeling of there's a slight feeling of I don't know what the not having satisfied the reason that you were there, which is a shame. Fortunately, it's not. It's fewer and far between than the good gigs.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right, because you find yourself sort of having to talk yourself around, go, don't take it personally. Yeah. It's nothing to do with how we play it, but
no, exactly.
But yeah, you're right. It's that feeling of not being satisfied. The evening didn't quite go how you wanted it to, and that's when you're really like, oh well, let's think of the money. Well, if you've been paid, which hopefully for a wedding you should be. Which I suppose takes me on to the next topic of conversation, which actually is to do with musicians getting their worth for weddings. I'm sure you've had this, I know I certainly have, where you sort of face a constant battle of, also how much do you guys charge for a wedding? Oh, I want to be 800 quid. Like, oh, right. Oh, I didn't know it'd be as much as that. And I'm like, well, actually, that's quite cheap. That's good, really, yeah. And I don't know what it is about like bands and musicians that seems to have this stigma of, it should be cheap because you enjoy doing it.
You enjoy doing it, exactly, And the thing there is that, I'm sure everybody enjoys what they do, if you've enjoyed taking photographs. I mean, maybe you're a wildlife photographer, but you do a bit of wedding on the, on the weekend as well. That doesn't mean to say that you should do that for any less.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because you enjoy taking photos, and it's true, you're offering a service. And the thing is, I think musicians often do get that rough end of the stick quite often with the. Oh no, it's too much. So and so said they'll do it for a couple of hundred quid. And
that's it.
Well, okay, that's fine. Get them then. But obviously they're not going to put on the same kind of show as you would have done. And there is an investment as well. There's a massive investment in musical instruments and PA equipment and things, and and those kind of things aren't always considered as well, because it's the maintenance as well. You've got to get it there. That's your vehicles, the initial outlay, of course. And if something goes wrong, we did a wedding, maybe 2018, I think now, and one of the subwoofers blew, and it was just not worth repairing. So the entire fee was to buy a new pair of subwoofer. You know, so there's no money made there. You know, you've got everything, and then a bit more had gone to buy new gear. You know,
Right,
so
yeah.
it's, but that's what it is, and you know, builders break hammers. Don't they, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, there's the classic thing of, you know, you try to get 4 plumbers to come out on a Saturday night.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
For,
See how much they
for
charge
5
you.
or 6 hours.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing as well is, you know, you'd go to a wedding in particular, you can be there at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon and not leave till 1, 2 in the morning. It's a fair old shift, is that?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And you've had to put in all the rehearsal time as well.
Yeah, of course.
There's
yeah.
probably a request or two as well.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Someone wants.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, that's very true. How do you find being in the Threetles differs? So sort of in the function, because obviously that's very specifically just the Beatles.
Yeah. Well, that, you see, the Threetles is very interesting because that started off very much. My friend Adam, who was actually in one of the bands back in the early 2000s with me, playing our own music, the Asylum Seekers we were called.
Amazing, great name.
And I was his best man at his wedding, and so we've known each other for a long time, and he just mentioned about starting this little Threetles, well, a 3-piece Beatles appreciation type of thing, to play the kind of pubs around York that a full band like the Mojos, for example, could never fit in because there's just too much equipment, drums and everything.
Yeah.
So it was just guitar, acoustic guitar, electric guitar and bass. Yeah, sounded great, and obviously we got going, and that's actually what led to One Iota, by the way, just as an aside as well, because when the gigs stopped in the pandemic, we then wrote the album. But anyway, the Threetles has achieved far more than we probably ever should have done for being a 3-piece band, and we've played the Cavern. Well, we did this time last year actually, August 21. We did 5 gigs around Liverpool at the International Beatles Festival.
Wow, amazing.
Which 3 gigs I think at the Cavern, and then a couple elsewhere in Liverpool at the Adelphi Hotel. So that was a fantastic experience. We played another Beatles festival in Lille in France, just at the start of this year, March. Actually, that was supposed to have happened March 2020, and it was just, well, even the day before we were still planning on going, but France was a couple of weeks ahead of the UK in terms of where they were COVID. So they pulled the gig, understandably, and I'm glad they did, because we may never have got back at the time.
Yeah.
It would have just been too risky. So we've achieved an awful lot, and you know, a few people we've played a few weddings as well, because some people have gone, you play Beatles, we want you for our wedding. So that's been quite interesting as well, because you don't. Well, obviously, normally at a wedding, for example, with the Mojos, you get the variety of music, and that's what you would get with most bands, with the DJ, whatever you see at a wedding.
Yeah.
But to have one very specific band all night is not what you'd necessarily think, because obviously if you've got 80 or 90 guests, not everybody's going to like the Beatles.
Yeah, it's true. They might like odd songs, but they might not want them all night. Yeah, that's very true.
So yeah, in terms of what we've done, it's been quite good. Sadly though, James, the original John Lennon of the band, is well, not sadly for him, sadly for us, he got a job on a cruise ship going around Florida.
Right.
Well, the east coast of the USA, and so he's left. Got somebody else in to replace him for the time being, but I think we've decided that all in all we've achieved more than what we wanted to do, and we're just going to kind of wind it down at the end of this year.
Yeah,
so, which would be sad to see it go, but I think it's quite a heck of an achievement with just the 3-piece.
Right, yeah, definitely,
really,
yeah.
So.
But I mean, I was impressed when I've saw you that time in Plunkett's opposite the Grand Opera House, and thought you had a really good sound. Definitely,
Thank you. Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, in terms of setting up for a gig, Adam has this great little Bose. Obviously, you've seen it yourself.
Yes, yeah, they're lovely, those things, aren't they?
Little PA system, which is just essentially 2 long speakers and a bass unit, and obviously it's much easier and a very quick setup to just plug and play, really. So,
yeah, it makes life so much easier, isn't it? Because I mean, that's the thing with gigging. That's one massive con for me. It's just the setting up and packing up. Such a pain. I mean, it's part for the course. You've got to do it, but if I had plenty of money and could pay people to do it for me, I definitely would.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I suppose that's one of the joys of being in a big successful band with plenty of money, is that you have got a crew to do all that for you.
You just turn up.
Yeah, exactly. Great. One other thing I sort of did want to ask about actually was so I know you have played in a band with Alistair Griffin, who, for anyone who doesn't know, was sort of, I suppose, became successful, famous rather, for being in Fame Academy in the early 2000s.
That's right.
How did you come about to know him and be in his band?
Well, that's again a good question. I've known Alistair for a while, partly because where where I was rehearsing at the time with the Mojos, well, and still do. One of the members of the band at the time had again, he still got it. It has a big warehouse barn, which Alistair, with his financial backers, had converted into a studio where he was recording his songs. So I would just see him from time to time up there. Yeah, and he had a band of, he had a bit of a roster, something I know you've discussed for your own projects, haven't you? A bit of a roster of musicians to just call upon whenever he had a gig, because he was starting to get gigs because of his rising star, and over time I did one or two, and then a few years up to the pandemic, actually, I was quite regularly in the band, playing the gigs with him. These would often again be functions and quite grand affairs in Blenheim Palace. We did a wedding there, and festivals and things, and the Formula One at Silverstone a couple of years, and then very kindly he asked me again just this current year to do it again with him, as one of the guitarists couldn't do it. Right. So he asked me, and I was honoured to do it. It's a good experience, and a chance to play to a vast number of people that I wouldn't otherwise have the chance to do, I suppose.
What was the audience engagement like for that? Were they very much attentive and there to see him?
Oh yeah. It's quite something, actually, because Alistair wrote the theme. I don't know if it still is, actually, because I don't have Sky TV, but one of his songs was the theme tune, used as the theme tune to Sky's Formula One coverage. Yeah, so it's still quite well known. It's still pretty well known anyway. So we played that on the stage, and there were a couple of thousand people that I could see. Obviously, I couldn't see the faces of every one of them, but certainly those at the front were singing along to the lyrics. And even though it's not my song, and I'm not on the recording or anything, it was quite a spine-tingling moment to be playing an original song. The guy, stood right next to me, who wrote and sang it. To have people singing it back, it was quite an experience.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be, actually. Yeah, amazing. All right, Andy. Well, to finish, I've got a few quickfire questions that I would like to ask you.
Okay.
So it's about 30 questions.
Okay.
And yes, I don't think too much about it, just as a bit of fun. So 30 quickfire questions, just finished. So, favourite TV programme?
Only Full Synopsis.
Okay, right, interesting. Yeah. Favourite band? Tough one.
Whoa. My heart will say Queen, I think.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's a solid choice. Favourite meal?
Tikka masala.
All
Chicken
right,
tikka masala.
classic.
Yeah.
Classic
Yeah.
English dish.
Yeah.
Nice. Favourite drink? Can be alcoholic, non-alcoholic.
A cup of tea.
Really?
So,
Right, okay. Yeah.
quite simply.
Cool. Favourite holiday destination?
Oh, San Francisco.
Right, okay. I've never been there. I've heard it's very nice.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, great. Favourite superhero?
Spider-Man.
Right, okay. Any particular reason?
No, I don't think there is particularly. I've always just liked Spider-Man. I think.
Okay,
Just,
right.
yeah, and even the activity that we've just done in the training, I filled out as Peter Pan.
Nice. Very good. What annoys you the most?
Oh, I'm sure there's probably something. It's probably a language thing, maybe. I don't know. The word "gotten."
Really? The word "gotten" really annoys you?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's a real Americanism.
Okay, I suppose it is, yeah.
Or something like that, I think, probably.
Okay, no, fair enough. What type of parent would you say you are?
A hands-on parent.
Really? Right, okay, yeah.
Very involved.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Would your wife agree with that?
Yeah, I think
She would?
would.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Excellent.
I think she would,
Do you have a karaoke song?
Ooh. I used to do I Believe in a Thing Called Love.
Oh, just, yeah, The Darkness.
Yeah.
I bet that's a fun one to sing at karaoke, yeah. Have you got a mean falsetto?
I can do it, yeah. I seem to have lost it a little bit in the last few years, but yeah.
Okay, great. Biggest regret?
Oh.
It's maybe a bit deep.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I've probably got loads, but I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Childhood idol?
Either Nigel Mansell or Damon Hill.
Really? Right, okay. Amazing. What does the first hour of your day look like?
Oh, first hour of my day, I do a few little stomach crunches and things like that. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Like a bit of a core workout kind
Nice.
of thing. And then breakfast.
Right.
I always have a big bowl of cornflakes before I leave the house.
Okay. Yeah.
Any day of the week, yeah.
Last film you watched?
Oh, I think I watched The Winter Soldier.
Oh,
by
okay.
Captain America.
Nice, yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Bit of a 70s spy thriller, I think, to it. That
Yeah,
one.
it has actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite film?
Back to the Future. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Good choice.
Yeah.
I would almost describe that as the perfect film, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is great.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite book?
I probably don't. I've read a couple. The last book I read was Murder on the Orient Express.
Really?
Yeah. Because I've never read it. I'd never read it up until that point. Oh, Frankenstein. I read that just before because
Okay.
I never read the book and I didn't know the story. You know, everybody thinks they know the story of Frankenstein,
Right,
don't they?
okay,
But
yeah.
the book is actually not really like any depiction I've seen.
Okay.
But I don't really. I probably don't have a favourite book per se. No, I'm not. I know it's probably quite sad for me to say, but I'm not a big reader.
Right, okay, that's fine.
I struggle.
Not everyone is.
I struggle to sit down
Okay.
and read.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Murder on the Orient
did
Express?
actually,
You
yeah,
did?
very
Okay,
much,
that's good.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
great. Oh,
yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Do you have a favourite guitar player?
Oh, I do. And I'd say I couldn't tell you whether it's Brian May or Mark Knopfler.
Right, okay.
But it's one of those two.
Okay, nice.
Well, definitely.
I mean, they're both great.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Well, I'd say both, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm up quite early, 6:30, I'd say. I
Right.
probably don't go to bed on an average night. Probably go to bed about 11:30. So,
Oh, do you?
so
Okay.
probably a bit of.
Bit of both.
Both,
Okay, right,
yeah.
yeah, nice. If you could live one day in someone else's life, who would it be?
Oh. Oh my goodness. I can't think. That's such a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's quite tough, yeah. Especially on the spot.
Yeah, probably if I really thought about it. In another context. I suppose some historical character probably are. I'll come back to me on that
Okay.
one.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I thought you might say that. Favourite sport?
That's tough after watching the Commonwealth Games. And
Okay,
everything.
right.
I guess probably football.
Right.
But I do like cycling as well.
Okay,
actually,
nice.
so, yeah.
Favourite topping on pizza?
Pepperoni,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, again, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
A song you never get tired of playing?
On the CD kind of thing.
Oh,
or
that's supposed to
just
play, actually, to play.
To play the guitar.
Yeah.
To.
Yes, play live rather, I should add, not just to play, yeah.
Let me think. Oh, probably Money for Nothing.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I must admit, I was very impressed the one time I saw you do it with your band. I was like, wow, they've absolutely nailed this.
I do enjoy playing it, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a great one to play. Great riff as well. Actually,
Yeah.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, God. I could think of loads there.
Right.
What's the wisdom? Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
That's a good one. Yeah. Do you have a best or favourite gig that you've played?
I suppose probably one of the Silverstone
Right. Okay.
gigs.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, worst gig you've played?
There's been one or two that were probably equally bad. I won't name the places, but again, more down to perhaps the attendance and the style of the venue not being cut out for live music.
Right.
Really,
Okay.
I think,
Yeah.
So there's been a few round York and the Yorkshire area.
Yeah.
That you think, oh, why have I bothered?
Glass half full or empty?
Well, half full.
Nice.
That's,
Yeah. You strike me as being quite a positive person. That doesn't surprise me. Favourite York venue that you've played in?
I suppose it would have to be the Joseph Rowntree Theatre.
Right.
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. I suppose that's very much been a top venue. Yeah.
Okay,
I think, and actually probably the One Iota gig was probably my favourite gig. I suppose even more so, maybe even more so than the Silverstone one, because it was original music. Actually, thinking about it now.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
The Degree Rooms was quite nice. So
Okay.
I don't know
right.
if you ever.
No, I've never played
there.
in that.
That was
Okay,
quite
nice.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be nice in there actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great. Liam or Noel Gallagher?
No.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be the same with that. Person you admire most in your life?
Well, my wife. I'll have
It's
to
a lovely answer.
I'll have to say that.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Okay, that's very nice. Song that you wish you'd written?
One of my almost my favourite song actually is "Higher and Higher" by Jackie Wilson.
Right.
I just think it's a great song.
Okay.
It's really relatively simple, but I just love it.
Oh, brilliant.
I'd
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
I'd love
but
to have written that.
Yeah, again, it's a great one. And then finally, what do you value most in a person?
It's probably a bit of a cliche, is it? But honesty, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and maybe just a kindness.
Right.
So those kind of words, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think those are two nice, very attributes to have, and I think a nice way to end it. So, Andy, many thanks for talking to me.
You're very
Absolute
welcome.
pleasure.
It's been an honour. You asking me to do it. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.